Let's ask ourselves the ultimate question. What do Alabama juries do when a corporation shirks a contractual and statutory duty to provide a safe place to live for vulnerable people? The right thing. They provide a full measure of compensatory and punitive damages. When an assisted living facility in Huntsville, Alabama and Terminix allowed an elderly resident to get bitten by fire ants for just 2 nights, and then tried to minimize the incident to the victim's family, the jury awarded $5.3 million. A similar case with one victim settled years ago for $2 million. Lawyers for the defendants were asked to share better guideposts for establishing the value for this case if they knew they existed. And they couldn't, or at least they haven't. And if the plan is to suggest something later, well, it sort of makes you wonder why they don't want the comparison vetted. Similarities exist with the fire ant cases. Residents are trapped by circumstances in the place they live. The landlord has the duty to prevent pests, and the resident does not. The landlord knows the duties being breached and did little or nothing to stop it. The victim had virtually no bargaining power once they checked in. The jury will naturally project onto the victim a sympathetic person they know and want to protect. The physical injuries are non-life-threatening. The lawyers who tried the case for the plaintiff understood the power of trying the case on the themes of torture and immorality. And lastly, the mental anguish damages arose from physical injury, meaning even Alabama's business-friendly appeals courts will not second-guess the jury award. But as we'll see, a jury will believe this case is worse for a host of reasons. We have not one, but 3 victims. And while many jurors will identify with protecting an elderly victim, 100% will identify with a mother and a child. A varied group of other living and willing victims who are reflective of the jury pool itself will show what happened to their families at Le Chateau. Defendants' bigotry and classism will offend opinion-leading jurors, and any closeted, bigoted sympathizers are likely to be shamed into passivity in the jury room. The risk also exists that cross-examinations of 1 to 3 plaintiffs will backfire on defense lawyers who are jockeying to one-up each other and to shift blame to the other defendants in the case. In the fire ant case, the victim didn't testify, so that possibility didn't exist. And lastly, the psychological injuries at issue here will last over much longer lifetimes. Let's take a last look at little Brooklyn. She was a normal and happy girl. She was normal before she became unwelcome at school and scared to go home. She was normal before she started begging her mama to let her sleep in the bathtub. But because of all this hate and all this torture, Brooklyn's not normal anymore. And since these injuries happened as her earliest permanent memories are established, she will forever bear scars. When she saw her mama drafting answers to questions for the case, she said she wanted to send a letter too. And she did a wonderful job. She writes, "I felt ashamed in myself." Brooklyn has gotten the psychological evaluation she needed. Her dreaded diagnosis is what we all expected: post-traumatic stress disorder. Amongst her other heartbreaking examples of behavior that support the psychological injury is a recurring nightmare. A nightmare she kept a secret from her own mama. The bugs are on her again, all over her little body. They crawl in her eyes and fill up her mouth. She can't breathe. They suck all the blood, and she dies.
Screaming.
The problem is that they were torturing a little girl.